Bro, what the hell is this? Let me start by saying that I know some people give some of the DC CW shows a lot of crap, but I personally don't hate them as much as some others. In fact, I thoroughly enjoy most of them, but I'm almost forcing myself to watch Supergirl. I'm a huge fan of comics, as you can see with all of this stuff on my wall. And before I started Supergirl, I finished all of the recent seasons of the entire Arrowverse. The Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, yada yada, all of that. I refrained from watching Supergirl up until the recent month because my bandmate told me it was full of feminist garbage as well as some others. But again, I'm a fan of comics, so I eventually bit the bullet and started watching it. I don't want you to think that I can't watch a show with social justice leftist leanings. The other shows have that as well, but they aren't nearly as bad as Supergirl. And I enjoyed them. You know, Supergirl's narrative, however, seems like it just took the talking points of the mainstream social justice left and put it in show form. If you haven't watched this and I'm about to spoil it for you, good. At least you won't have to sit through it, or at the very least you'll be prepared for it. So the first season obviously deals with the introduction to Supergirl. You know, Supergirl's real name is Kara Zor-El, and they sort of mix some of the storylines from the comics for this depiction, as her alias is Kara Danvers, with Danvers being the last name of her adoptive parents. If you read the comics, you know that she went by Linda Lee Danvers, but anyway. Again, first season, you learn about Supergirl and you know that she works for Cat Grant. Now, this Cat Grant is a little different from the ones in the comics, which was obsessed with Superman and worked for the Daily Planet. Here, she's known as this sort of egotistical alpha and queen of media, and the CEO of Catco, which rivals Daily Planet. Now, Cat represents this sort of uber, I'm a strong, independent woman type of deal, and I'm okay with that. It wasn't that bad for the first season. She's funny. I could even handle her sort of constantly taking shots at the right, though I was immediately alarmed when they did make Jimmy Olsen this black dude because, you know, diversity. He was white as hell in the comics, but whatever. But I can handle that, and I can handle even the anti-alien storyline, which they went with, which was clearly synonymous to the current immigration conversation, but it was at least somewhat a little subtle. The second season is when it got bad because it was no longer subtle. Supergirl went to the crapper, and I can pinpoint the exact episode that popped it off. Season 2, Episode 3. This is when they were hammering home this whole pro-alien thing, and I'm talking about calling a law the Alien Amnesty Act, which is centered around bringing the aliens out of the shadows. Now, you know these aliens are, of course, always under attack and being made to look bad, but it also introduced this relationship between the police detective by the name of Maggie Sawyer, who is a lesbian, and Supergirl's adoptive sister, Alex Danvers. This is easily the most forced, overly emphasized and dramatized lesbianism I've ever seen, and it ruined the enjoyment of the show for me, but not because the characters were gay. That's whatever. It's the fact that they spent the entire second season dwelling on that, and it dominated Alex Danvers' character, and she was a pretty badass one. But it seemed like the only thing at that point that she had going for her was the fact that she was gay. Maggie sort of brought Alex out of the closet as she was sort of suppressing these feelings, as she had been attracted to girls since she was a youngster. But as she's starting to sort of put these feelings into perspective, she's having this emotional breakdown, having trouble coming out, telling everybody. And it didn't help that Maggie initially sort of rejected her, and she was the reason that I guess she sort of came out in the first place, because she was into her. The dynamic between Maggie's relationship with Alex and both of their sexualities dominated both of these characters. It was cool for like an episode or two. I can deal with that. But they let that run for 20-something episodes, and it was never about the fact that they were two people in a relationship. It was always about the fact that they were gay, and the writers made sure you knew about it. And as this sort of happened, it made all of the leftist crap more and more annoying, as they were no longer jabbing, I guess. They were throwing these haymakers up until the last episode of the season. Jesus Christ. By the end of the season, the subtleness was long gone. It was out of the window. Daxamites were the main villains, and the writers went full leftist. The Daxamites were attacking their city, and then Cat Grant, she gets on a tube sending a message to everybody saying they must literally resist, hashtag. And that the Daxamites, I guess, were trying to make their city great again. She literally said that. Her whole speech was leftist garbage, as if it was aimed at Donald Trump and written by blue checkmark leftists on Twitter. There was nothing subtle about it. By now, the writers are just trying to beat you over the head with their leftism. I was about done with the show by the beginning of season 3, probably caught cancer, as Maggie and Alex are now engaged, and as they're having their little pre-wedding parties, Maggie lets Alex know why none of her family is going to be there. She makes note of the story when her father, or she told her father that she was gay, and he was basically disgusted with her, so much so that he dropped her off with her aunt. Yeah, this is season 3 and they're still dramatizing this character's sexuality. This is when we also learn that the character is of Mexican descent, and I already knew what time it was then. But she invites the father despite all of this because all this time passed and maybe he's more understanding. He seems to be getting by just fine at their bridal shower, but ends up walking out, essentially saying that he can't do this. Maggie follows him outside and they get into this heated exchange. Jesus Christ. So basically, he says that she insults him by being gay because he came to the country as an immigrant and he had to deal with a whole lot of hatred to move up in the world. He even fixed his mouth to say that they want to build a wall because they think they're all rapists and murderers. And the only thing that they hate more than a Mexican is a homosexual. Are you joking with me right now? Supergirl writers, what the hell are y'all doing? Y'all are legit using a live action depiction of a classic comic book character to funnel y'all's leftist views, and y'all ain't even trying to hide it. This is ruining the show. Y'all even got the nerve to have an anti-gun episode on top of that in season 3. What are y'all doing? There is a growing, loud community that is getting sick of this nonsense in comics. They are ruining pre-established characters and making whatever social justice talking points dominate them as if there's nothing, or they have nothing else going for them other than their sexuality, their race, their gender. And I'm saying this as a fan. I'm trying to power through this Supergirl crap because I'm a super fan. I love comics, and I gotta say I at least watched it. Nobody is forcing me to watch this trash, thank God. This is just me using a marker to try to shame this crap out of existence, and it's probably not going to work, but I at least gotta say I tried. Supergirl writers, y'all suck.